I filmed a pep talk for you. If you were seeing that the Department of Justice indicted the Southern Poverty Law Center for trying to weed out white supremacists and the KKK, while at the same time doing settlements and praising the Proud Boys. And you see, like, I don't like this timeline. Here's my pep talk for you, who like is frustrated by everything you're going on. Remember the amount of frustration we had about a year ago when Doge was doing the cuts, and then there was a frustration when Donald Trump was sending the troops to the various different cities, attempting to do that. Remember the frustration you felt when Donald Trump attempted to revoke the grants of these quote unquote sanctuary cities because they won't assist his effort in immigration policy. Remember that? Remember when Donald Trump tried to fire the probationary workers and he did actually succeed in that? Remember when they tried to indict the person who threw the sandwich and all of the various different ICE watchers and protesters and tried to indict them for, and actually successfully did indict a few of them, and they had had the trial. Remember all of that? You know what happened with all those cases? They all got either dismissed or dropped. Every single one. Or found to be unconstitutional, unlawful. And this will too. It's just a matter of time. And it's frustrating because what Donald Trump is good at, and I'll give him that, even though it's waning, is marketing and distracting and using the media and using lawfare to tell the narrative, to shake people down, to get someone to come to the table. But you can see that's not wearing out. His lawsuit against the Wall Street Journal, against the New York Times, got kicked out of court. Their attempts, every single one of their attempts to indict Donald Trump's perceived enemies was either like met up with like dismissals, laughter, humor, disgust, but for the most part, they're going nowhere. James Comey, Letitia James, trying to remove the Jerome Powell. He tried to remove Jerome Powell, and some of the Republicans like, well, if you're going to remove Jerome Powell, I'm not voting for your replacement. They're going to try to investigate Jerome Powell, the federal for what? The grip and handle he once had on the media, on marketing, on lawfare, is unraveling faster than ever because he decided to get in bed with a couple of people who thought that they could reframe, restructure, and reconfigure what Americans' democracy is, and they can do it and not face rejection, and not face opposition, and not face resistance. And they're for months because they knew this was coming, but I don't think they understand or appreciate it, how hard it was going to be. So just take comfort in knowing that it's a nothing burger. You can indict a ham sandwich. Indictment doesn't mean guilt. Indictments mean there's enough for you to start the process. But they were successfully able to do lots of indictments that all got either eventually dropped or dismissed or found like kicked out of court by a judge or a jury. And this one will be too, because they just rush to do shit that they don't have the authority to do. They are thin on facts and thin on law. That's why right now, remember they took a bunch of men and just say, you're a member of a gang, and they sent them and rounded them up, sent them to El Salvador where they had their hair shaved and they went to a prison for 100 days. First, by even the majority of people they sent, I think overwhelming majority, 80%, had no criminal background. El Salvador said, send us your criminals. They sent people who just happen to be Venezuelan and have tattoos. And right now, there's a class action lawsuit. There's a class created for all those men. And right now, we're still in the process of them having to go to court to say, I'm not a member of the Trinidad Vega, and here's my proof that I'm not, and where's your proof that I am? And so when the government can't prove that they aren't, and they got tortured, you know what's going to happen? A lot of those men, part of this class, they're eventually, our tax dollars are going to pay them. And that's what the Trump administration don't realize. Every single person that you pick with, more people know about Southern Poverty Law Center right now because they pick with Southern Poverty Law Center. When they went and picked with Don Lemon's stock went up. When they went and last term, all of the migrants, the kids and people that they corralled and the mothers they separated from their babies, you know what happened? There was a class lawsuit. And all those moms were beneficiaries of class, and that class just now they can't be removed. Even though they try to remove a few of them, they did a few things, and that's a story for another day. But they benefited from mental health services, from free legal services because they sued. And so every single person, every single entity that this administration picks with, all it does is elevates that people. They got the pain, of course, and it's bad for the effect of their I saw a report that said that the effect of the USAID closure is going to have rippling effects for years and years and years on those communities that relied on that aid, and there's going to be deaths tied on their hands, along with the blood of the deaths of the children that were bombed in Iran, of the folks who were in those boats that were fishermen, that really truly were just fishermen, weren't narco boats. They just got extrajudicially killed by Pete Hegseth and this administration. All of the folks who are suffering, who lost their jobs, who lost their health insurance because of the Doge cuts. Every single person who's suffered or whose lives ended early because of Donald Trump's administration and his people, all of there will be something to pay. There will be a price to pay on the other side. The price to pay, it's sad that you're dealing with that, but the price to pay, we're seeing it right now in all of how it's uncrumbling, how they're getting, the blue flips, the gerrymandering flips. What's coming up was eventually is going to be an impeachment. And if enough people, Operation 2/3 is my one woman campaign to get 2/3 of Congress. It's hard because people just robotically vote for whoever they vote for, even if they're not doing anything for them. But it takes the people who are apathetic, the 90 million people who sat out. If just a fraction of them will get activated and actually show up, you can cancel out the robots that just reflexively vote for their party. And if you do that, you can actually flip the Senate enough to impeach, remove Donald Trump's entire administration, and start the process of accountability for everyone, down to the ICE agents who brutally, I just read a SOAR report of they brutally attacked two U.S. citizen children of Hispanic origin. One's 14, one's 16. It was just brutal. Like that's excessive violence. Police go to jail for excessive violence. There's police right now in jail for excessive violence. So down from the ICE agents all the way up to Chrissy Noem, who left. Doesn't matter. You can leave, but you're going to be still held accountable. Pam Bondi, you can get fired, but you're still going to be held accountable. All of the folks who've done wrong and going to get squeezed out of this administration. Just because you get squeezed out and you're not front facing anymore doesn't mean that we haven't tracked everything you've done, and there's not going to be accountability in the form of criminal and civil referrals, investigations, oversight, and justice. The gears of justice grind slowly. You know this. And so I know you get frustrated because you're just like, I see all this stuff happening. I want them prosecuted yesterday. I see you frustrated about seeing the congressional hearings and saying, well, this is just theater, but the congressional hearings is laying the foundation. That's why they try to avoid it. That's why when Pam Bondi was Attorney General, I'm in the dockets. I'm JJ Legal. This is the first time you've seen me. One of the things I do is monitor the lawsuits, and I'm going to do soon. I'm going to do a video giving you some insights on what's going on in the lawsuits. And one of the things I've seen is that she tries to avoid her names. When judges ask for declarations, they avoid putting themselves under oath because they know the value and weight of that. It can be used later on. So as they're going on this criminal, unconstitutional, unlawful terror of the United States, this attempted authoritarian coup, this is a timeline. This is a blip on the timeline. You are existing in this timeline, so it's frustrating, especially those of us who have passed, who have suffered, who lost their jobs, who lost their health care, who've been deported, who've been tortured, who had grants revoked, who their research has been has been delayed, and we're gonna feel the pain. Yes, we're on this timeline, but this timeline is yet a timeline. There's another side of this timeline, and this other side of the timeline is a lot of pissed off people when they get the power, the boomerang effect. We've already seen Hakeem Jeffries. I know people say he's pussyfoot, he softs, whatever. The folks who right now, Garcia, Jeffries in Congress anyway. I'm talking about Congress. Padilla, you see the irateness, Kane. Those are the people who are mad. You see them, the upsetness. When they get back power, you best believe the anger you see in those hearings, they're going to, when they get the speakerships, when they get the congressional chairships. I mean, when the party flips, the chair controls the agenda. The chair controls the subpoenas. The chair controls the hearings. And when they can subpoena, if you don't show up to subpoena, criminal contempt, you go to jail. That's why Steve Bannon went to jail for 4 months, because he denied a criminal contempt. Pam Bondi, if she continues to not abide by the criminal by the subpoena, they can actually fine her in criminal contempt, and she can actually go to jail. She can be prosecuted and go to jail. Now, again, you might say, well, the DOJ is run by Todd Blanche. The thing about it is, it's not always going to be. There's another side to this. That's why I keep reminding people. Last year, when they were doing all this stuff, the Doge, then the every single thing, the going to the federal cities, the ICE raids, the ICE attacks on blue cities, every single wave, every single quarter, there's a new attack. It's coming back to them. And you see what they did. We're seeing everything. Sunshine is a bit disinfected. Every single thing they know is going to be discovered. This is the public. This is not private sector. The stuff they got away privately, they're not getting away publicly, and that's frustrating them. because they didn't realize it. I don't think they appreciate it. TikTok, JJ Legal, each one teach one. Share this pep talk for somebody